Welcome to episode number 9 of the Unreal Engine tutorial beginner series. So since we already worked a lot with materials on the previous video, so I thought that we should keep going with actual blueprints, with coding. So I thought that we would do something pretty cool. It might take more than one episode though, but it will pretty much be a system for placing somewhere in the map a cube or something, and to be able to detonate it from a distance, sort of like a C4. So before we do anything, well, first of all, let's create an actor, and it's going to be called explosive. And the first thing we want to do is just add a cube. Let's first of all change the material. Let's type in door. It actually looks pretty cool. And let's do the scale to be 0.4, 0.4, and 0.2. And we want to also move this a bit on the Z, just like that. So it's compile. So what we want to do now, since the input will be from the player, we want to go into the blueprint third person character, which is the player. So we want to type in an event, so type in event X. So well, you can do any key you want, but it's going to be X. So pretty much we're going to work with input, and this is, so an input is, well, pretty much when the real player, like the human player, presses a key on its keyboard or uses his mouse. Okay, so when the X is pressed, we want to do a variable. So we want to do explosive set, and we're going to leave it as it is because we want it to be Boolean. So if you remember, a Boolean stores a true or false value. So we want to compile, and we want the explosive to be set to be false. Okay, so we want a branch, and I'll explain what it is in a minute. So just plug that into the pressed and plug in the get to the condition. So a branch, if you're already familiar with coding, it's like an if statement. So if this is false, this is going to be executed. If it's true, the true pin will be executed. So what we want to do, if it's false, we want to let's compile first. So what we're going to do is add another variable, and we want this to be detonated. So if it's false, sorry, we want a set, not a get. So if it's false, we're going to change detonated to true. So just click on that. It's pretty simple. And if it's true, nothing will be executed. So, and also, so we cannot add more than one C4 at once. We want to get explosive set and set this to true. So every time, so let's say the player presses X and he detonates the explosion. It's going to set this value to detonated to true, and we'll work with that later. And it's also going to set the explosive set to true, which means if he presses X again, the false will not be executed, only the true. And since nothing is in the true, nothing will happen. So let's compile, and let's go into the explosive actor, and we want to go into the event graph. So we're going to first of all work with the event begin play, and what this event does, it executes only once, and it's when the actor appears in the game or at the start of the game, so just when it appears. So we want to grab the execution pin, and we want to get a reference to the third person character. So we're going to do another cast like we did in the other video. So cast to third person character. I'm going to show you a pretty cool trick. So the object will be get player pawn. So compile, and we're going to make a variable. Well, actually no, let's delete this. So you want to right click over here, and we want to promote to variable, and we want to name this player ref. So this will be a reference to the player, so we don't have to do a cast every single time. We need a reference to the player. So what we want to do now is an event tick. So we might as well just, you could have added the cast to the third person character on the tick, but if you remember, the tick executes every frame. That means this will be executed every frame, so it's for optimization purposes. So what we want to do is first of all get the player reference, and we want to get the detonated variable. So get detonated, and we also want a branch, and we want to plug this into the condition. So if the player presses X and the explosive hasn't been set, the detonated variable will turn to true. Okay, so what this means, if it's true, it's going to destroy itself. So let's just do destroy actor for now, and right before destroy actor we want to, so this thing doesn't go crazy, this variable, we want to set this to false. So let's set detonated to false. Because if not, it's going to keep executing, and we don't want that. So I hope you understand it. So I'm not going to add explosions or anything right now. I'm just going to play and see if it works. So let's drag the explosive over here, and if we press X, it should disappear. So it disappeared. So what we want to do now is, let's try to add an explosion, something pretty cool. So let's add a particle system. So spawn emitter at location. So let's drag these around so it doesn't look too ugly. And what I want you to do is actually just move this one up. So the emitter we want, the particle system, is an explosion, and pretty much what a particle system is, it's just kind of like visual effects. So what we want to add, so the location isn't 0, 0, 0. We want to get actor location, and we want to make sure it's self. So let's just put this underneath. So if we press play and we press X, an explosion will appear. We can also even add sound effects. So to do that, we want to do a place sound at location. And let's see what we have. Oh, we have explosion. Great. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to hear the explosion in the video because I'm using Bandicam and I'm not sure if it will record it. But let's just press X. And that was a pretty sweet explosion. So since the video is already over 10 minutes, I think that I should actually do in the next tutorial, what we're going to do is the player will be able to place the C4 or explosive wherever he wants. So if you enjoyed this tutorial, make sure to like and subscribe. So thanks for watching and see you in the next one. Bye.